I'm going to say something that, the library might not like to hear. I love libraries. I almost grew up in a library. I love libraries, been libraries all my life. It's such a beautiful day out. What do you guys do?
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, you got that. It's such a beautiful day out. Anyway, I appreciate you being here. And a beautiful library, by the way, as all libraries are in their own way. I took a minute to walk around outside to the stacks. And it occurs to me always in the library that these are not just books we're looking at. They are doors. They really are doors to other worlds. And this is how I've always thought about books. They are gateways and doors to other worlds, other lives, other experiences. Where would we be without books? Where would we be in our daily lives in this world without these doorways into other experiences, other lives, other worlds? I think this makes us better reading, to understand different points of view, science fiction, different worlds, different lives. And so I love the library. Like I say, I grew up in the library. One of my favorite things to do on the weekend was my grandfather did take me to the public library in Birmingham, and I basically grew up in the library. What I'd like to do is talk about my work, how I got started. I'd like to read a little bit. It's a short chapter from a new book that I'm actually working on right now. Will probably be out summer of 2014. But I'd also like to take questions a little bit later on if you guys have any questions for me. But, how do you... I've come a long way, guys. Not just in Birmingham. But a long way, really. I never thought I'd be a writer. I never thought, who do you know is a writer? Right. I didn't. I thought, I had this talent or this desire to write at an early age. I always loved reading. And I remember reading 2 or 3 books when I was a kid. It made me feel, again, in this other world, viewing life through this other doorway. But also, I didn't want the story to end because I felt they were my family, in a way. And it so affected me that I thought, if I could only write this way, to make the reader feel that they are part of a family, that they know these people as they, well, in a way, almost better than they know themselves or their own family. And at the last page, the very last page, very important thing, the very last page, you don't want the book to end. And I remember that very vividly, reading a couple of books and thinking, oh, I don't want the story to end. It's just so good. I want to stay here. And I thought, if I could do this, if I could do that, I would be successful, at least in my own mind. But as a kid, I was doing short stories, I guess in the first grade. Never thought I would, amount to anything to be a writer. I thought maybe I'd be a newspaper reporter. I did get a job as a copy editor at the Post-Herald in Birmingham, and I always wanted to be a reporter. I didn't get a chance to be a reporter, but I remember I had a list of story feature ideas that I wanted to do. And one of them was, and I did actually do the story. It was about there had been a Bigfoot sighting. Yeah, right. Been a Bigfoot sighting. North Alabama. Around here, yes. Around here. Sure. So anyway, I did the story, but let me run through the story real quick. So I stopped at a little country store, and I said, there's been a Bigfoot sighting around here. I understand. I'm a reporter, which I was not. I was working the copy desk at the Post-Herald, but I decided, to give this one. And then the guy around the counter says, hey, there were 2 guys, in all caps, they were looking at fishing tackle or whatever over here, and they said, she says, hey, have you guys heard about this? And they said, oh, yes, we have. And we know exactly where this happened. And we'll take you to exactly where it's been seen. I said, great. I was so young. I was so dumb. Actually, I borrowed a friend's camera. I had a Leica. worth about $1,200 around my neck. Anyway, these two gentlemen took me out into the woods. We're not doing a repeat of Deliverance. Kids, no Deliverance. But it could have been. It could have been. So we're out and we're looking over a cliff, and they say, it was right down there. There was a hunter, and he saw it right down there. Really? Really? And as they're saying this, they're standing on either side of me. I'm looking over the cliff, and I realize they're saying, it's right down there. And they're both moving back like that. I'm moving back. And suddenly I realized I stand on the edge of the cliff. Nobody knows where I am. I've got a $1,200 camera. I was so young, so dumb. But hey, I survived. Must have survived. I had to get a story out of it. Post-Herald, the editor of the copy desk, when I took this, editor, actually the city editor, when I took the story in, he said, I said, I had the story that I'd like to give you, and I have some other story ideas. And he said, as long as I'm copy editor at this newspaper, copy desk editor, actually city desk editor, you will never have a story in this newspaper. You will never have a story in this newspaper. Because I hadn't come up in the ranks of the reporters. No, I didn't come up in the ranks. So it was like, no. All right. So I am basically in a dead-end job. And I'm thinking, what else can I do? What else can I do? You know, I thought, well, my writing was going to open the door to being a reporter at the newspaper. It didn't happen. So out of desperation, I wrote my first novel. That was about in 1978. Exactly right. Exactly right. My first novel, to my surprise, amazement, sold. And I was on my way. I kept my job for a couple more years, but I was on my way. And it just happened. I kind of learned to write in public, which is kind of good and kind of bad, because all my mistakes are out there for people to see. The first 4 novels that I did, I'm not that excited about. I think I could have done it much better. But it was the best I could do at the time. But, you know, most writers have a trunk novel or 2 before they get to where they need to be. And I didn't have that. I had to learn to really write in public, which was kind of tough, because I got, you know, that. I'm sensitive to criticism and bad reviews, and I got a lot of criticism for those first 4 books. But, you know, you do the best you can do. This to me is it's a mystic journey, is what it is, really. I've written, I don't know how many books have I written?
17?
17, 18, let's say 18.
Let's say 18. Published yet.
Yeah, let's say 18. It's a mystic journey. I don't really know how I got here. I mean, I remember thinking I wanted to do something with my talent. And I felt I did have a talent, or I hoped I did, and I hoped it would get better and better. And it has gotten better, I think, as I've progressed in my books. I think it's gotten better. But how I got here, I mean, I don't know. It's a mystic journey, because also, when I sit down to write something, I don't really know exactly what I'm going to write about. I know I have kind of the idea of what I'm going to do, but I don't know I don't write from the outline. That's why I say it's a mystic journey, because for me, it's always new, it's always fresh. And I want to read something, I want to be the first reader. I want to be the first reader. So I know if it doesn't work for me, it's not going to work for the reader, okay? And so now, having said that, I'm going to test you on this, because this is chapter 1 of the new book that I'm just writing. This series I'm doing, this series about a problem solver in colonial America. His name's Matthew Corbett. And, you know, sometimes you say, well, you know, you get the question, what are you working on now? So I'm working on a historical series. Oh my gosh, history. Oh, gee, that must be the most boring thing in the world, right? Well, you know, in school you only hear the boring parts. Don't you?
That's right.
That's right.
Exactly
yes. You only hear the boring parts in school. You don't hear the dirty, grimy, sexy, wicked, funny, wild, crazy, insane, nutty, violent parts. Well, you don't. You just hear the whitewashed versions of things. And I wanted to make sure that when I did my series, it wasn't whitewashed, it was real. And fun. And fun. Let's make it fun too. So this is, I've got 4, this is the 4th, isn't it? Yes, the fourth. River of Souls. I'm losing count.
River of Souls is the fifth.
Pardon?
River of Souls is the fifth one.
The fifth one. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Well, Providence Rider. See the shirt? He's got the shirt. That's the cover of the new book, Providence Rider. The new Matthew Corbett book. Matthew Corbett is, again, a problem solver detective in colonial America. I'm doing 10 books in this series. There you are.
The book's actually rectangular, not oblong.
No, this is a big show and tell, would you?
No.
Okay. Thank you. So he's a detective, a problem solver in colonial America, and I want it to be fun. And again, there are going to be 10 books in this series. The first book, called Speaks of Night Court, didn't start out to be this series. It was going to be a standalone book about a witchcraft trial. And it just, I really liked the character, so I thought I'm going to carry him on. We're going to see what we can do with him. And I've been able to come up with a story arc that ties all the books together. So actually, when you finish reading the books, the whole series, the 10-book series, will be like you've been reading one book, because there are characters who appear in the first book, who show up maybe in the fourth or fifth book, and then there are events that span several books. And each book also is only separated by a matter of months, usually. So there's fast motion between the books. But anyway, I'm going to read the first chapter in just a minute. It's a short chapter. What else can I say? Well, all right. In between each of these colonial books, I'm going to be doing a more contemporary novel. The 5 is a more contemporary novel about the last tour of a rock band. And on their last tours, they're about to break up. They decide to write the last song together. But they don't realize that writing this last song, the last song that they're going to write has been sort of begun with divine intervention. And something does not want this song to be written. So this something that does not want this song to be written, because it will have implication in the future for someone, uses a disturbed Iraq war veteran, Marine sniper, to basically kill these band members one by one before they can write this song. So this to me was a very, I love music. I love the ideas of the trials and tribulations of a rock band on the road. And so I put my heart and soul into this book. And it's called 5, that's the name of the band. After I do this book, The River of Souls is the name of the next Matthew Corbett book, I'm going to be doing a book called The Border. It's a big science fiction horror novel. There's a lot going on with that. So yeah. I say big. I think this one song is 900 and something pages. I hope it's not going to be 900 something pages. It's got a world. It's got like a world. Oh, you like that? Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, really? Great. So the trend is for small books now. No. Big trend. Okay. Yeah, there you go. So anyway, it's going to be a lot going on. It's a worldwide scale, worldwide scene, and it's going to be good. Very good. So can I read you this chapter of The River of Souls? And it will be self-explanatory as we get into it. Okay. The man was as big as a mountain. His shoulders were like boulders perched upon cliffs. His face was a sun-browned patch of flesh above a wild growth of jet-black beard that hung halfway down a tobacco-stained shirt. In deference to the room, he had removed his battered gray tricorn. His black hair was a bear-grease mop of a madman's mane. From it issued a stink of dead ursines, and therefore had attracted a half-dozen big green flies that flitted and swooned about his glistening zenith. A moment after he had come through the curtains from the garden beyond, where the lights glowed in candle pots and cicadas chirred sweetly in the pear trees, the music that charged the dancing ceased. Violin, cello, harpsichord, and clacker of the clack sticks stopped their ropes and rhythms, and thus the dancers upon the shining plank floor in the candlelit chamber also stopped their series of roundabouts. All eyes turned toward the massive black-garbed man who had just stomped his hard, dirty boots upon the self-same planks, and those who knew what was likely to happen drew breath to whisper and point. They pointed toward a young man named Matthew Corbett, who stood nearly at the center of the room next to the most beautiful woman who had ever lived. The mountain of a man gazed across the room in the flickering candlelight, From the ceiling hung streamers of red and white paper. Nearby was a long table upon which were placed the victuals of the evening. 2 roasted turkeys stuffed with oyster dressing, a roasted pig stuffed with mushrooms and bacon, grilled grouper and sea bass stuffed with crab meat, and sundry potatoes stuffed with a variety of vegetables, sweetmeats, and pickles. Platters held bottles of French wine and jugs of Carolina ale. Glasses sparkled, the music in the light and lively, the conversations keen and witty, and the dancers high-stepping and precise in their turns. All in all, it had been an excellently festive party until this black-bearded, ebon-haired bull of the woods had just clomped into the filmy curtains. And now, in the absence of music, with the whispers dying down, there was only the noise of the flies buzzing hungrily around the gleaming, smelly curls of matted hair. "Oh no," said the most beautiful woman, who stood grasping Matthew's arm on the right, and again as if to ward the beast away. "Oh no." The beast, however, just grunted with the sound of a horse teeth breaking wind. His iron gray eyes had found the prize. Matthew sensed the beautiful woman's distress and touched her arm reassuringly. "There, it's all right," he said, resplendent in his wine-red suit and a white shirt with a high collar and a frothy fronting of Spanish lace. Who is he?" She whispered in his direction without taking her gorgeous, luminous violet eyes from the visage of impending violence. "He's the man who's going to kill you." "Say what?" asked Matthew. He thought she'd said something he'd rather not have heard. The monstrous mountain moved. In so moving caused the throng of frozen dancers to, by necessity, thaw their legs and scurry out of the way. The boots pounded the planks like a drumbeat for the dead. The musicians, they were safely upon the stage, drew back for the sake of further safety against a wall, upon which hung a tapestry of the dual masks of comedy and tragedy, as the stage was normally used by the Charlestown players. The boot-pound drum beats continued across the floor, step by ominous step, until the new arrival at the party stood looming over Matthew Corbett. "Not again," said Pandora Prisket, her red-lipped mouth twisting, the violet eyes in her heart-shaped face flashing both anger and supplication. "Please, I'm begging you." The man shook his head as absolutely as a demon on doomsday. "No use begging," he answered, in a voice as deep as the pit and as rough as a rocky road. "What's got to be done?" Matthew did not like the sound of that. "What's got to be done?" he asked Pandora, and to his chagrin he heard his voice tremble just a bit. "You," said the huge black-garbed man, who put a thick sausage of a grimy, dirt-nailed finger upon Matthew's chest, "have got to die." "It's a necessity." "A certainty, at least. Now, let's get us to the fine points of the thing." Reaching into a pocket of his long coat, which seemed to Matthew to be very much out of season on this sultry Friday night in late June, the man brought out a black leather glove, which for all the world was to seem both the bottom of a pigsty and the floor of a horse-big stable. He wasted no time in slapping Matthew across first the left cheek and then the right. Around the room there were gasping shudders and a few lit chops of delight, for even the finest lads and ladies loved a spirited duel. "I challenge you," the man growled in a tone that made the fresh glasses on the table clink together and the harpsichord strings hum. "Magnus Muldoon," said Pandora Prisket. Her cheeks reddened, her long hair was the color of the richest sable, clasped with a golden pin in the shape of a peak. She wore a French gown that threw the reddest rose in Carlton Park, enhanced by light pink ruffles at the throat and along the arms. "I won't have it. Not another one." "Another one what?" Matthew asked, thoroughly poleaxed. "Another dead man on my conscience," she told him, without taking her gaze from the monster of the moment. "Listen to me, Magnus. This has got to stop. Will stop when all of them are dead. You can't kill every one of them." "Yes," said Magnus Muldoon, the iron gray eyes above a sharp nose and the beastly beard staring daggers at Matthew. "I can." "I think," said the young problem solver from New York, "that I have come into this play in the second act." He then happened to look up and noted with some distress that hanging on leather cords right above his head as a symbol of the night's festivity, a large painted wooden sword. It was, after all, Charlestown's famous annual Sword of Damocles ball. "All right then," growled Magnus Muldoon, oblivious to Pandora's expression of pleading and her hand across Matthew's chest, as if to protect his heart from being ripped clean out. "How do you want to? I've had quite enough of this," said the older gentleman who had just come to the side of the mountain, drawn a pistol from under the waistcoat of his dark blue suit, cocked a mean-looking weapon, as he did have a small bayonet, beneath the barrel and placed it against Muldoon's lice-formed cranium. "You will withdraw from the sight of my daughter, sir, or blood shall be spilled." Matthew felt like a loose button on a tight coat. Indeed, the second act was proceeding apace with him being a central character, yet not having a gap of knowledge concerning the script. He felt he must have unwittingly stepped into a role as a Charlestown player, but whether this was yet to be a comedy or a tragedy, the problem solver had no clue. In this early summer of 1703, as his world seemed poised between gun barrel and grim Broadway, Matthew Corbett was all of 24 years old, having turned that age in the very month of May. He sometimes wondered, usually late at night in the silence of preparing for bed in a small residence in New York, how one could be young and old at the same time. For surely some of the things that had both perplexed him, challenged him, and attached themselves to his life had the power to dim the candlelight of youthful exuberance and for certainty one's outlook upon the world. He was older than his years and more seasoned in his experiences. In the course of his investigations for his employer, the London-based Herald Agency, he had been by turns fascinated, wary, burdened with despair, jubilant beyond measure, and just plain scared nearly to death. And it must be said, very nearly put to death on more occasions than he might like to recall. Yet recall he must, for such was his mind. He was a constant player at chess, though he might be sitting at no board and facing no physical pieces. It seemed also to him that he had become a constant player at the game of survival, and that this chess match he had unwittingly entered into with the eerie and powerful individual known as Professor Fell went on day and night, whether he was present at the game table or not. Matthew was yet troubled from his encounter with Professor Fell, Emperor of Crime, whose eyes and appetite had now fallen upon the New World as well as the Old. Back in March on Pendulum Island in the Bermudas, reference to Providence Library, Matthew's clock had been nearly wound down. He still carried many unpleasant memories of that excursion to the criminal realm, during which he himself had played the part of a rather wicked individual to mask his role as a Providence writer. He had wished to withdraw from New York, that seemingly sleepless and perpetually active burg, for a time, to rest and recuperate, and to bask leisurely in the Atlantic breezes that rustle the palm trees of Charlestown and spread the scents of lemon and cinnamon at night through the lamplit streets. Alas, here stood Magnus Muldoon, smelling neither of lemon nor cinnamon. And though the pistol was aimed at the mountain monster's brain pan, Matthew suspected this was not the end of the story, but the beginning of one. "Father Brisket," growled Muldoon with a wry smile pulling at his whiskers, "you won't kill me. Not the man who's going to marry your daughter." "Silence, you filthy beast," came the retort from Sedgeworth Brisket, who was slim and tall, gray-haired and handsome in his 53rd year, his nose and chin carved from the stone of nobility, his forehead graced with the lines of intense thought, his eyes more blue than the compelling violet of his daughters. Now, however, they were equally as angry. "I'd have a jackass as a son-in-law before I'd have the likes of you." "Many jackasses have been standing where this one stands," said Muldoon with a glance at Matthew. "Look at all the stable cleaning I've saved you." Matthew held stock in a pistol, but not in his holder. A bad sign. The barrel wavered. "Why do you torment us so? What have we done to you?" Muldoon's narrow eyes narrowed still. He pondered his question as if it carried the weight of God's kingdom. "You," he rumbled like an avalanche, "and your dear departed missus have made betwixt you this angel who stands next to a dandified jackass. You have put upon this earth the one female I should have, must have, and will have. The one female who walks through my dreams at night and shatters my sleeping. But will she have anything to do with me in the light of day? No, sir. I am the dirt beneath her lovely heels, as I am the dirt beneath all your shoes." This he announced loudly to the assembled and transfixed listeners. Well, Magnus Muldoon ain't nobody's dirt. And when Magnus Muldoon falls in love, as he has fallen such a height for this vision of beauty, this angel heaven wishes other angels might be, he will not stop till he has her in his arms and in his wedding bed, no matter how many men he has to kill to win her heart. "You're insane," sputtered Sedgeworth. "I ought to put a ball between your ears this instant." "Ought to," replied the mountain monster, "is a far holler from will do. I have challenged this, whatever it is, to a duel. A fair and square fight to the death, which I'm a planning on winning, naturally. Duels are legal fighting, as you know. Now, you kill me and that's cold-blooded murder. Seems I see a few constables in here amid the highways. They'd have to throw you in irons and be knocking a noose to your neck, Father Priscott. So, I think what you ought to do is to put down that little popper before it goes off and sets you a-swinging. To Matthew's heart-stopping horror, the little popper was lowered, and Sedgeworth Priscott gave him a sad-eyed look and said, "I'm so sorry you had to die." And no one was more sorry than Matthew that he had come to this place at a moment in time. How he wished to be walking on the Broadway, even though it would be dappled with horse apples. How he wished to be drinking a glass of wine at the Trot and Gallop and playing chess with his friend Efren Owls. He even wished to be back in the office at number 7 Stone Street, listening to Hudson Greathouse go on and on about the charms of his own lady love, the lusty widow Abby Donovan. Or, the worst of his wishes yet, he wished he might correct, suffering the cold winds of silence emanating from Mary Grigsby, the printmaster's granddaughter, and truth be told, a red-haired adventuress who had more than once caused trouble for Matthew. Yet Matthew knew he had more than once caused trouble for her, and at present wished to keep her out of trouble. And yet she bridled his efforts, misunderstood his meanings, and had the ability to pierce his tongue upon the thorns of language. And now there were 2 icebergs that passed in the night. So Matthew faced his mountainous foe with an expression of impassive dignity, his chin uplifted not in defiance, but because the fellow was so lofty. He was tall and slim, with a lean, long-jawed face and cool gray eyes that held hints of twilight blue. His thatch of fine black hair was neatly combed, as suited this evening to fine graces, as suited also to fine company. His pale, candlelit countenance bespoke his intellectual qualities of reading and chess playing, both interests that claimed many hours. He had been well educated in a New York orphanage, and better educated by his experiences so far in the rough and rugged world. He was by profession a problem solver, and well tempered by such rigors as an ex-magistrate's clerk would have never dreamt or feared to know. One lasting mark of his journey through an uncertain and certainly demanding life was a crescent scar that curved from just above the right eyebrow to his hairline, a gift that Magnus Muldoon was now regarding with obvious interest. "Bear got you?" the mountain asked. "Not all of me," was Matthew's calm reply. The claw slash from Jack One-Eye when he was trying to save Rachel Howarth, his night bird, so to speak, from being burned as a witch not far from this very town was a painful memory, but still only a memory. Said Muldoon. "Maybe you ain't a pure dandy after all to be carrying such a token, but don't matter. You have got to die for daring to bring my angel to this gathering." "I won't allow it," spoke the violet-eyed angel, with some devilish heat. "Magnus Muldoon, you don't own me. You can't be trying to win a woman's heart with bloodshed. It's not, she hesitated, struggling for words. "Natural," Matthew supplied, "nor is a Christian." "Oh, you're wrong there," came the answer from the growly, throated voice within the busty beard. The eyes above that black forest glittered with feverish intent. "It is natural for a man to use bloodshed when he has seen the woman he loves more than the stars love the night, more than the river loves the sea, more than a bird loves the free wind. It is natural, if that's the only way to win her, by killing every damn pretender to her heart who dares to take her arm and sport her about like a silver button on his cuff. And it is Christian, you low-ass heathen. For even Jesus shed blood in the name of love, his own blood, as he said, no avail. And I'm rid in this world of those men who can't carry a candle to the torture of beauty. And they dress themselves up like gypsy crows and hop hither and yonder, trying to prove they're made of some metal, when right before her stands a man of pure iron." "A little rusty, I think," said Matthew. He regarded the circling flies and wrinkled his nose at what they swooned upon, "and musty also." "He won't be the last," Pandora said to her hulking suitor. This did not go over very well with Matthew, but nevertheless remained silent. "I would never marry a beast like you. I want a civilized man of refinement, a man to be proud of, not a man not to be proud of," Matthew supplied. "Dad," said the most beautiful woman in the world. The grim-faced head nodded. "I'll kill every living man who stands in my way, Pandora Priscott. Sooner or later, I'll be the last man standing. You can stand on your head or stand on a pile of gold. I can't bear to look at you, much less smell you." She put a hand to her throat and reached out for a handkerchief. "Father," she cried and staggered toward him, "I'm going to be ill." "You're Your time has come, said the bearded beast to Matthew Corbett. I challenge you to a duel. If you're any kind of man, you'll accept that challenge. Not turn tail like a yellow belly out here, you're being light out of here this minute. Many others have, and everybody at this social loves a good laugh. So I'm asking you, what weapon do you choose? Sword, pistol, axe? What do you want to fight me with? Your pale piece of parchment. The pallid problem solver pondered this. He looked up once more at the sword of Damocles and dangled above his skull. Then he stared at the eyes of Agnes Muldoon and saw there something he had not seen before, something perhaps he had not expected to see. He decided then what was his choice. But before he spoke it, Matthew thought about he had come to this place in this moment, and how when he got home, he was going to give Hudson Greathouse such a kick in the pants that the squabbling ghosts of number 7 Stone Street would stop their eternal fight to applaud his determined application of the boot. Thank you. So it is a mystic journey. You know, I kind of know, I know where I'm going with this, but yes, thank you. Thank you very much. But I kind of leave it open. I mean, I know where I'm going. This story is about after Matthew finishes this problem, and I'm just going to tell you that he recognizes that Matthew Muldoon is a very handsome man, that he was married in almost 30s, he decides to make Matthew Muldoon to a gentleman. But that's not the thrust of the story. The thrust of the story is that there are some slaves who escaped from a plantation, a rice growing plantation, and these slaves are accused of murdering a woman. And there's a mob after the slaves, and so the owner of the slaves, because these slaves are very intelligent men and they know how to build the sluices and the gates that bring river water in and out of the paddies, asked Matthew to go on with this mob to keep these slaves from being murdered in the forest. And as the mob tracks the slaves, something begins to track the mob. There's some creature in the swamp that begins to track the mob. So Matthew has no idea what he's got himself into. He's got himself into quite a lot. So anyway, that's the thrust of this book. It's so exciting to do this. It's so exciting, like I say, not only to read and enter these doorways into other worlds, but actually to create one yourself. You know, and to live in this world for a short time. And my fun about this is, you know, there's no cell phone. There's no immediate messaging, no instant messaging, no immediate anything, really, you know. And I was talking to a guy at the conference I just went to recently, and he said, you found an interesting thing. He said, because, you know, progress moves so fast now, you can't write a book and it not be dated very quickly. That's true, really. He said, you found a way to let your books have longevity, because they're never going to be dated. These are never going to be dated. But also I'm trying to write them, as you probably have gotten from the hearing, with more of a modern slang, more modern sound. One of the most challenging things in writing the series was to do the language, how they would talk, and do the language so that modern readers could understand and appreciate it. They appreciate the language then, but also understand the language from our modern. I'd like to open up the questions. If anybody has any questions for me, yes.
I had a question, and you probably been asked it many times. What precipitated your change of genres throughout your career? Because you've written in many different areas that some people study for their entire career and never should.
Sure.
And has that affected, how do you think that's affected you as far as marketability and your fan base?
You know, I was talking to somebody else at the same conference, and we said the ideal thing would be that your genre would be you. That my genre would be Robert McCammon. You know, me. That would be my genre. So whatever I would do, my fans hopefully would know that they're going to get a good quality reading experience out of it. That would be great. Now, to answer your question is, I was doing mostly horror work. And I'm still going back and doing some of that, but I'm not so You know, I'm not so interested in supernatural horror as I used to. I'm more interested in human, if there's horror indeed, it's human horror, human drama, human tragedy. And also, I covered most of the basics when I was doing the quote horror novels. I did werewolves, I did vampires, ghosts, zombies. I covered the basics. So really I did. Isn't that weird? I covered the basics. Sound like this. Anyway, it sounds weird. But okay, yeah, I did that. So I covered the basics. And I kind of got, I wouldn't say bored, but I wanted something challenging. And this, the first historical work I did was so challenging. It was like, can you really do this? Are you really going to be able to finish this book? And so the research is so, you know, there's so much research. So the number one thing is, this is challenging to me. Now this book I'm starting, The Border, is going to be very challenging to me, another big book. And that has some horror elements in it. But you know, I never really wanted to be known for one thing. Because I don't think Boy's Life is a horror story. I mean, it may have supernatural elements. Gone South is not. Stinger is, of course. So there's some that are really got those elements in it. But I never really wanted to be known for one thing. I never really wanted to be confined in any genre. So my feeling is, my genre is me. Long answer, I know, but I hope that did answer for that. Anyone else? Yes? Yes. Oh.
Did you find say what in any city before?
I'll investigate that and let you know. Yes.
Why are you so obsessed with eye color? Every character that you have talked about, you give this specific eye color, and I really like that.
Well, you know, I think also that, what is it, they say the eyes of the mirror of the soul, is that right?
Yeah.
Sure. And also, I'll tell you another secret too, and I just started realizing this. I was telling somebody about spaghetti westerns. You know spaghetti westerns, or the westerns are from the 60s, they're done from Italy, Italy and Spain?
Yeah.
Okay. Very dramatic movies, and they had always close-ups of people's eyes in those. And I don't know why that affected me, just the stare of someone. The stare of the eyes, or the stare, those scenes, the close-ups of the eyes affected me for some reason. And I've always thought it was important. I guess so. I mean, I always thought it was important to say what the color of the eyes were, particularly if they were, well, I don't know. I mean, this person's got violet colored eyes, but you know, somebody's got black eyes. I think it's important to say that. Why? I have no idea. Good question. I'm trying to think about it. Yes.
I have a quote here by Robert Bloch.
Okay.
Writer of Satire. He was also a Frost Stoker.
Right.
Award winner. And he said, despite my ghoulish reputation, I really have the heart of a small boy. Keep it in a jar on my desk.
Well, yeah, Stephen King uses that quote too. Well, you know, I think I do have the heart of a small boy, but you know what? He's here. Mine's here. Trying. And I wouldn't try to put any other small boy. Now, I am a grown man. I am a grown older man. But I'm proud to have the heart of a boy. And I hope I always have a heart of a boy. And I wish for you that you always have the heart of boys and girls. That's my sincere wish for all of you. Anyone else?
Are you conscious how much, well, to me as a reader and probably others, your work is much like watching a movie, as it is reading?
That's right. I love that. I want to be visual. I want to be very visual.
I mean, you're there. You know?
That's right. I don't think I know any other way to write. I mean, and maybe it has to do with movies. Maybe because I was very influenced by movies as a kid.
Have any of your works been made into movies?
You know, I've got, you know, you hear this all the time because yeah, you know, you've got options for things. And there's an option, I think Woolside will make it work right now. Mine's working, there's an option on mine. I think there are a couple of other things, but you know, you just have to wait and see. Because, you know, my thing is, it would be great, I think it'd be great, it certainly would boost my visibility for sure. But this is my child. I mean, you know, somebody else asked me if I would ever want to do screenwriting, and I said no. You know, I wouldn't want to do screenwriting, it's by committee. And the word is solitude. I mean, the solitude is kind of tough sometimes, because you're always by yourself, working. But it is glorious solitude in a way, because you're totally in control of what you do. And that to me is worth the price of admission. So these are my children, you know, and I'm very proud of my children, and a movie would be somebody else's child. And I would love that to happen. It would be great.
How would you feel about turning one of your children over to somebody else to do the screenplay?
Oh, yeah, that would be fine. That would be fine. Because I would say, you know, that's your deal. You know, that's your deal, and I have my child who I've already created, but that would be somebody else's. Yeah.
You said you learned to write in public.
Yes.
What are some things you learned since some of those early novels that that you had made a few mistakes? What are some of those?
I'm afraid I learned one bad thing, and that is to be long-winded. That's one thing I've learned, that, you know, the early books are all pretty short. I wish I could kind of go back to that. I look back and I say, how did I do that? How did I go back and not? Because my tendency is, as you mentioned with the icon, my tendency is overdo, and I have a watch that I don't overdo in terms of detail. And you probably know in this, there's a lot of detail when I read to you. So, all right, but I just go back and say I'm still learning. I mean, I'm not nearly where I want to be as a writer. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try to do the border. It's more of a spare. So it doesn't go like 900 or something. I'm sorry. Characterization, people. I've learned the economy. As I say, I've become more long-winded, yet I've learned the economy of a character. I've learned much more about dialogue, how to eliminate characters through dialogue. And I will say, let me say, that I think, even though this Magnus Muldoon character, he comes in and he wants to kill Matthew, whatever, did you not feel a little bit of heartache for him, just a little bit, that he's an outsider? That that he's not accepted by this group of people who probably he shouldn't care if he's accepted by this group of people or not. But all right, that's what I've learned. I've learned how to use dialogue to make a character real. That's one thing.
It's very subtle.
Well, dialogue, I think, dialogue is tricky to use, but I think I've gotten better at it. And I hope to continue to get better. And, you know, I hope to become a better writer. By this time next year, I'll be a better writer than I am now.
Are you using Southern dialogue in the dialogue for this new book, since it's in Charleston, it's out there on it?
Well, it was not really Southern dialect. This is set in 1703. So,
Okay, so they
it's still.
didn't have an accent.
No, they didn't.
Still
They
speak
didn't.
English.
They still speak English. And so the question is, my question is, and it's an interesting question because I haven't yet figured it out, how do these dialects actually kind of evolve?
Because it's kind of Carol Sappy.
Well,
Who knows?
you think of all the different dialects, think of all the dialects that are just right around Huntsville, or in Alabama, or around Charleston. That's some very unique dialects. Okay, but you know, all right, there have always been variations of dialects in England, in Wales, Scotland, Ireland. But you know, how did that translate into the dialects we understand now? I don't really know. It's harder, it's difficult sometimes and challenging to do dialects. I've tried to do a little dialect with this Muldoon character. It comes across as really more of a hillbilly type. So this is probably the best I can do. But dialects is tough. Anyway, that's one of my questions. I want to read more about how dialects actually evolved. But yeah, they were all speaking English, British, whatever. Yes?
But today's my introduction to you. I had not read it
Yeah.
before, but I like the rhythm of your sentences.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I hope they'll get better. Yes?
Do you have a favorite character that you've written
I
about?
always say, maybe it's cheap to say this, but I always think of the character I'm writing about now is my favorite because that's the most immediate. And I always think, that what I've done before is like set in stone. It's there, it's out there, it's done. And what I'm doing now is more like flesh, you know? Because even this, I can go back and revise it a little bit. It's not completely stone until it's published. So I think the character, whatever I'm working on now is really my favorite book. And using the main character, whatever I'm working on now is my favorite character. That's kind of cheap. But anyway, that's the way that is, yeah.
Characters in boys' life. Did you know those boys when you were growing up?
I knew variations of those guys, and these are probably every boy type guys, you know. Not one of them was really me, per se, but I did know many guys like this, yeah, for sure.
How long did it take you?
Actually, that was a pretty fast Right. Let me tell you a little story about Boys Life if you're interested in my history. Boys Life started out not to be that. It started out to be just a plain murder mystery set in the town, to be sort of simple look. And that just was not working out. The murder mystery thing was just not working at all. And sometimes you know when something's working or not, it's not going to work. So, and the challenge there is how long you spend working on something that you know is not going to work out until you give it up. But anyway, it just didn't feel right. And I had this idea to do this sort of phantasmagorical novel about a boy growing up in a southern town who wants to be a writer, and the things that go into his life to help him be a writer. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this now. And I put aside the murder mystery, which was flat. It was a flat idea, and I did that. So that just worked out. So sometimes, things don't work out, but things do work out. They do work out. Whether you intend it or not, they work out. Yes.
First of all, thank you. My teacher, about 20-some odd years ago, gave me Boys Life.
Yeah.
Which now for teachers to do, that's sort of an active career.
Oh, that's right.
But, so obviously you shaped me as a young impressionable reader, thanks to that.
Well,
I'm not sure what kind of person I've turned into. Because I've followed you all these years. And thank you for that, for engaging us all in your stories.
You have turned out to be a reader and a thinker.
Well, obviously you shaped me as a young reader and a young person growing up in this kind of scary, confusing world we live in. What characters or books can you say maybe did the same for you? Do you have any?
Oh, there are. I was going to say this is sort of the task of a writer. I think is what you said, is to make sense out of nonsense, or make sense out of just make order out of disorder. Life is so messy, isn't it? It is messy. It's very messy. And we can write messy books. But I always want to clean up the mess. I always want to straighten up the room. And when I leave the room, straighten up the room and let's leave the room in order. This is my deal. Now there are some authors who take the opposite tack, and you don't. They make a mess and they leave a mess. They make a mess. That was never me. So I want to make things better for you. I would say, Poe, of course, is a kid. I would say Harlan Ellison was one. I read a lot of science fiction growing up. Ray Bradbury was a big, huge influence. And because he's what I aspire to be in a way, because he can do so much. He has his own genre. Ray Bradbury, and it's not science fiction, it's not horror, mystery, whatever. He can do anything and everything. So he was one of my idols. As a matter of fact, coming out this soon? In July, is a book called Shadow Show. Is that right? Yeah. It was called Live Forever, which was, it's a group of writers who have done short stories in honor of Ray Bradbury. It's 90-something birthday. Anyway, so in honor of him, it was called Live Forever, which was when Ray Bradbury was a little boy, he went to a fair. You remember the Electric Man? The Electric Man could evidently make sparks jump out of his finger or something. Anyway, Ray Bradbury as a little boy comes up to the Electric Man and looks at the Electric Man, and the Electric Man looks at him, and the Electric Man shoots out a spark and says, "Live forever." Yes. And he will live forever. He will live forever. There are many, many writers out there, many creators of doors out there who will live forever. And they've had influence on you and all of us, and they will live forever. No matter what happens to the world, no matter what chaos the world is in, disorder, these people will live forever. Ray Bradbury is certainly one of those guys. And one of the most wonderful things about writing also is, even though I say it's the word solitude is tough to take sometimes, you realize that you're touching people all over the world, which is amazing to me. You're getting emails and letters and messages from people all over the world, and you're touching people, as I hope I've touched you. You'll never meet them. But yet you have some influence in some way over their lives. And that is, I think, is that the most wonderful thing? I don't know. I mean, there's so many wonderful things to this mystic journey. It's not over yet, I know that. I have a long way to go. But there's so many wonderful things to this mystic journey. Touching people you never meet. creating these doors to invite people in and say, learn, enjoy, appreciate something that I'm going to tell you. Join me on this journey. What's the most important, what's the most wonderful thing about being a writer? There are a lot of tough things about it, I'll tell you. I mean, it's a tough profession. You know, you're on your own. There's really nobody to help you. When it's going great, it's the most greatest thing in the world. You are communing with God when it goes great. When it doesn't go great, the devil laughs. And that's all too. You hear him laugh. You hear him say, yeah, you wanted this, you done it. Nobody can help you. And that's when you just gotta, and that's when you gotta trust him in his it's gonna carry us. Anyone else? Yes.
Your character in Wolf's Hour, Michael Gallatin?
Yes.
Have you done anything else with him? Are you going to do anything?
I have, and you're going to be surprised, but that book is out. It's called Hunter from the Woods, and it's available in Subterranean Press. It's oh, yeah. Have you read that? Did you finish it? You enjoyed it?
Well, I'm not there yet.
Not done. Okay.
But I love the Wolf's Hour.
Okay. Did you just get that, or did you?
A few months.
Okay. I think you like it. You like Wolf's Hour. You really like this, I think.
It was published in a limited edition originally, but there's a trade hardcover edition coming out in November that's priced more appropriately, like a normal hardcover.
Yeah.
What's the name of it again?
It's called The Hunter from the Woods. The Hunter from the Woods.
From
The Woods. Hunter from the Woods. Yes. Yes. Do you think you should read it first? Do you think you should read it? Wolf's Hour?
Yeah. It's a werewolf novel, but it's a really good werewolf novel.
No, it is. Come on. Set her on fire. They'll set her on fire. Anyway, it's out there. Well, it's about, I'll tell you, I'm gonna sell it to you. I'm gonna sell it to you.
It'll be a hard sell.
Okay. All right. In this book, you're going to believe when you read this book. You are going to believe. If you never believed it before, you are going to believe that a human being can turn into a wolf. And you're going to understand. Yes, you are. You're going to believe that could happen, and because you're going to understand what it's like for the man who actually this happens to, how he is torn and tormented between being a human and being a wolf. And how and what he says, how does God view him? How does God view me? Does God view me as a human or an animal? Where do I fit in this universe? Who am I and what am I really?
What kind of eyes does he have?
Would you hold up and let her see?
No, it's okay, the cover.
They're bright green.
They're
Bright
They're bright green.
Okay.
They're bright and luminous green. Luminous green, yes.
Okay, I'll tell you something unforgivable about Evie. She hates dogs.
Hates
So don't
dogs?
wolf her in the dog
I like
kennel.
wolves.
Okay, like wolves. You like wolves? Wolves, so. You got it. You got it. You'll like it. Trust me, you'll like it.
A lot of converting to animals much scarier than wolves.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, for sure.
And he hunts with you that are a whole lot scarier than wolves.
That is right. He's the hero. See, he's a good guy. He's the hero. He's a tormented, tortured hero. Yes. Any other questions? Well, thank you for joining me. Thank you for being with me, and thank you for reading my work, which encouraged me to write more. It encouraged me to create more of these doors in these worlds. So thank you for having me here today. thank you for taking this journey with me. And thanks for your belief in me and your leadership. Thank you so much.